The following is a live sports event featuring the Abernathy Antelopes or Lady Lopes. This broadcast is a presentation of the Abernathy Sports Network and may not be altered or used in its entirety without the written consent from the Abernathy Sports Network. Today's broadcast is made possible by the fine supporters: MC Master Roofing and Construction, South Plains Auto Ranch, Clark Riley Insurance, April Funeral Home and Flower Shop, First Baptist Church, JC's Refrigeration, Storm Guard, Plains Land Bank, Nutrient Ag Solutions, the Junkin Farmers Market, MZJ Variety Shop, Shallowater, Rooted Revival Hair Salon, Chance Rocha, Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Code 3 Soda Shop and Meat Market, Lasso Electric, Webb Vision Center, Hill Vet, WTX Diesel, West Texas Brick and Stone, Rural Roots Medical Clinic, the Farmers Cooperative Compress, First State Bank, DB Media, Ty Horsford Realtor. Again, thank you for tuning in tonight's live sports event. It will begin shortly.
Quarter. There's an empty backfield looking to throw. Wiley swings it out over to the far side. Lots of room. 10-5 touchdown. Coming up. There's the snap. Another handoff underneath. And the first one there behind the line of scrimmage is number 50, Dyson Garcia. Sideline. Faking that, or that's actually the snap to Micheletti. Micheletti takes off. He may have his second touchdown of the night, and he does! Colt Micheletti from 28 yards. Highly three-receiver set. There's Rolando in motion. He gets the pin, and he hits the hole hard. He's into the red zone. He's carrying tacklers. He's Superman into the end zone. Rolando Martinez on the second. Reason that changed? And there we are. Good evening, Abernathy, Texas, and good evening, fans of the Abernathy Antelopes and Lady Lopes. Ty Horsford, voice of the Antelopes, alongside that other guy, Chance Rocha, as we are inside the Outside the Box studio, episode 4, season 2. Glad to have you with us here on another Wednesday night in West Texas. And Chance, it's kind of refreshing that we get to show up and talk sports and talk things going on around Abernathy ISD and kind of have some lighthearted fun. Obviously, the events in our country today kind of put things like this into perspective. Yep. We get to come and just talk about things. You may agree with us, you may not. We have fun with it. We like to support our community. Obviously, there's and I think you and I both agree, and I'm sure everyone tuning in tonight agrees. Just there's no place at all for the senseless acts that took place today in our nation. We live in a free country where people should be able to agree, disagree, and do it civilly. Yep. It goes without saying that violence is never the answer, but just kind of a heavy day in our country, and it just seems like it's kind of been a heavy
past few weeks,
2 or 3 weeks in our community. Just lots of difficult things going on for people and whatnot. And so we just kind of want to bring some lighthearted fun to in the midst of all of that.
In the midst of everything that's going on, for sure. Like you said, no room for hatred, no room for violence, and the things that have been going on in the world today. And then, like you said, just prayers up to all those involved in that, and then prayers up to those in the community that are dealing with some things. And we lift them up, and we're thinking about them. But like we said, we kind of want to get your mind off of it and just talk about some other things around ASD and talk some sports.
Hey, I can assure you, Chance, everything we talk about tonight will be positive.
There you go.
And will be good. And we will jump right in to our look around AISD as we get things started. Obviously, we talk football, we talk sports, but we are outside the box because we like to talk about other positive things going on in our community as well. This week, coming up on Friday, a couple days from now, it'll be the Adopt a Lope, Little Lope Pep Rally. That's always a fun time for the Little Lopes to get to walk in with their antelope buddy and kind of be featured in the pep rally. Just kind of a cool thing there. So I think if you're supposed to be involved in that, you probably have gotten all the instructions on where to be and how to be and all of those things. But that's always fun. And then Chance, this last week at our elementary school, the annual
that's a big deal.
Donuts with grandparents. And what's the best way to put it? A little bit of chaotic fun on the elementary campus.
It definitely was. It's one of those events that they do just to kind of bring in the community, the support, and those grandparents, they show out. They turn out in a big way. And, my mom obviously she went and she's there bright and early, and she gets there 5 minutes before, and there's already a line all the way to the to the parking lot, and the kids are excited. And there were some parents. She knew a lady who's actually from New Deal, and she commented and said, how far did you drive in for this? And she was like, it's only about 5 hours. And I thought, she came 5 hours for
donuts with grandparents.
But it turns out it was her granddaughter's birthday this week and her other grandson's first football game. So she's making a whole week of it. But it's just one of those things, those kind of things, those events. They pair it with the book fair. And so they get to go get donuts, have some donuts, orange juice, milk, and then go on over to the book fair and spoil those grandkids.
Lots of fun on the elementary campus. They just do so many things to engage parents, engage grandparents, engage the community and families. You gotta love that coming out of the elementary school. Also, student council in the elementary was elected informally this week, and so congratulations to all those students that are going to be a part of the elementary student council. Always a good time there, and a great program that just kind of helps develop skills and leadership and just benefits students and our school in general. So congratulations to all the class representatives and the officers, which I believe are probably all from fifth grade.
Yeah, I think the officers are fifth
if I'm not mistaken. So congratulations to all those guys. And then Chance, jumping to the middle school, and we talked about this last year whenever we talked to our counselor in the middle school, Kara Nick. But this is the second year that our middle school once a week takes a group of students to Lubbock Impact, where they get to spend a couple hours during the school day, but just serving. And really the whole idea behind it is just teaching these kids how to serve, the importance of serving each other, serving others, serving your community. Lubbock Impact is a great organization that serves those in need in Lubbock and the surrounding area. And by the time the school year is over, it's my understanding that every middle school student, as long as it's parent approved, we'll get to participate. And I just love, we talk all the time, Chance, about all of our campuses doing things far beyond academic. Grades are important, but teaching these kids how to be good people and citizens in the community.
Well, just life skills, and the fact that you're making them aware of, like, hey, there's people out there who may be less fortunate, may not have the same type of community, may not have the outreach that we have here in Abernathy, and just being able to show them, like, it takes individuals who do volunteer, who take time and want to give back, and just for them to be started so early and just be able to teach them that leadership and that just that compassion to have for others who are in need. I think that's very important. And I think the fact that it's not just a small group. They give the opportunity to all those junior high, middle school kids to have the ability to go out there and give back to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Just finishing up a little bit ago tonight, the newest members or inductees, I guess, if you will, of the Junior High National Honor Society, the NJHS. They had those not elections, those recognitions and inductions tonight. Always a lot of our middle school students involved in that. Always a good representation from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
For sure.
And so congratulations to all those involved.
Yep, that's exciting. Having, like you said, having both of those things where you have a good group that's in JHS, it gets honored for those academic sides of things, like I said, but then also recognizing that there is other opportunities and things that our middle school campus is doing too. So.
Yep, absolutely. And then, Chance, I saw this last week, and I wanted to kind of bring attention to it because I think it's just a really cool thing. We have been lacking an art program in our high school grades. I don't know how long, but for a while. And with the addition of our new high school baseball coach, Chris Bird, he actually is a certified art teacher. And
certified.
Not super common that you have a coach that is your art teacher, but supposedly not only is he an art teacher, he's a really good art teacher. And a cool thing that he did, and I guess this is kind of where you can mix your love of sports and your love of art.
For sure.
But prior to the Sunray game last week, he had his students, and I saw a picture of it. I should have gotten one and put it on the screen here. But a really cool commemorative football helmet. It was like half an Abernathy design and half a Sunray design, and then it kind of was a silent auction item, and you had people from Sunray and Abernathy kind of going in and bidding on that because it was obviously a half a Sunray helmet.
Right.
And just to kind of commemorate that game. And all the funds raised go to the art program because there's not really any funding for the art program right now. So that's just a cool, again, just one of those things outside of the classroom that engages not only the students but the community as well. Yeah,
for not only engaging them, but just a unique, like you said, a unique way to do it, and to be able to not just involve just the Abernathy community, but to do Sunray, and then for them to be able to raise the funds to continue to build that program and continue to get it lifted up to where I'm sure where he wants it to be, and that's cool to have somebody that has that passion to be able to give an outlet, because if you don't have that and you have a kid who's interested in it, this could be a spark, and they could be able to be in art for the next few years for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to Coach Bird and all of those art students. And so
may have to put a bid in on the next home.
Absolutely. Maybe we can have a
homecoming helmet. Look
there you go. And apparently they're going to be doing it for all of the home games.
Oh,
and
that's so
cool. So keep an eye out for that at the home football games this year. So that's kind of a quick glance and look, if you will, some of the things not sports related going on around AISD. As we kind of jump into this week in sports and bouncing right along, Chance, was a little bit slower of a week for our cross-country teams. Yep. The junior high, they did compete over the weekend at Littlefield. They did well, but our JV and varsity runners, they were off. It was their open week, and both of those teams going to be back in action on Saturday. Is the meet this week is at back at LCU.
Yeah, back at LCU, and I think they had to let the JV and varsity off a little bit. They're probably still catching up on sleep after having to drive home from Stratford and then get up the next day to run.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
But yeah, them cross country runners. It's funny because having a daughter's in it, and I didn't do that in high school. My sister didn't do that. So just the commitment that they take, the running twice a week in the mornings, running during the period, running after school. I mean, it's a kudos to them and kudos to Coach Carlisle. She runs a good program for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And almost every year they do well at district. They have runners compete at regional and make a run at state. And so that just like last year, you had a girl, a female runner, a lady lope, and an antelope running at the state cross country meet. And so, yeah, she does a great job. Chance, on the volleyball court, Abernathy seeing some success at all levels this last week. The 7th grade A team, apparently really fun to watch. They're doing an excellent job. They are undefeated so far on the season, while the 7th grade B team, 2-1. Our 8th grade team is also 2-1. So the future looking good for Lady Lope volleyball. And then we've got some results for you from the varsity and JV side. On Saturday, Chance, the varsity team swept Loop in straight sets.
There we go.
And got themselves in the win column, 25-16, 25-19, and 25-18. So a pretty convincing win for the Lady Lopes against Loop on Saturday. In that match, Bree Shorter and Braylon Knight, they led the way for the Lady Lopes with 7 kills apiece.
Let's go.
And then the JV also made it a clean sweep of the Loop Longhorns as they won 25-23 and 25-6 in their 2 sets.
There you go. It's good to see them getting some success, getting those wins and things like that, Ty. And they did compete. They did well against Saturday against Loop. And then that 3-2-3 Warrior team, Ty, they came back to Abernathy again.
I don't know who this team is.
I think it's a homeschool organization, but apparently they're a pretty good little team. So they ended up beating our varsity girls this past week and the JV as well. But you still had standouts from Shorter, Gretchen Shipley, and Tatum Bailey. They each had 5 kills. And then, like I said, the JV also lost to them. But they were close matches, 25-21, 25-15, and 26-24. And so competitive for sure. And then that's all you can ask for. You're continuing to build this program and just continue to build their confidence as they go into district play time.
And they open district here pretty soon with Plains. And I'm really intrigued to see how the Lady Lopes compete in district. Obviously, they did not win a district match a year ago. I don't suspect that's going to be the case. I do expect they'll find the win column in district and compete a little bit better than they did last year because they've done that in a pretty difficult non-district schedule. And then Chance, junior high football finally getting underway. They obviously get a few extra weeks of practice before they open the season, but they will be taking on Littlefield this week, tomorrow on Thursday, as they are on the road in Littlefield starting at 5 o'clock on Thursday night. Our 7th and 8th graders getting their season started.
Yeah, shout out to those 7th and 8th graders. I know that 8th grade group, they're kind of having some changes. You know, they're losing one of their own, Maddox Waldrop, who left us, obviously, with the departure of Superintendent Aaron Waldrop. And so going to be a different look for them, but I'm excited for them. I know those boys are excited. I talked to a few of them, ran into some of them at Code 3, and they're like chomping at the bit, ready to go. And then I know that 7th grade group, I think they're going to be a fun group to watch, Ty. I'm excited. You never know in that first year, in that first game, there's a lot of nerves, but I think that's going to be a good little group as well.
You know, really, overall, the last several seasons, our 7th and 8th grade, our junior high football program has been
pretty stout,
very, very stout and almost dominant in a sense. And so hopefully that continues for our junior high teams this year. And then, Chance, our JV football team, they found the win column for the first time last Thursday after dropping that season opener to Stratford. They rebound in a big way. They have a big road trip as they go to Stinnett to take on Sunray. And in that ball game, it was all Abernathy all the time as the Antelopes get a 52-12 win over the Sunray Bobcats on the JV side.
Yeah, it was a big game for them. They showed up big time on the defensive side. Lots of big plays happening. On the offensive side, you had good games by Cutter Johnson and Ralphie. And just you could tell the grit that they played with, the passion, the emotion. They were like, no, we're not used to losing, and then they came out big time on the defensive side as well, like I said. But they'll be back in action. They're back in action tomorrow here in Abernathy at 5 o'clock against Littlefield. So come out and support if you're here in town. They'll be playing here.
And talking about getting in the win column, Chance, we can talk a little bit about the game Friday night. We didn't even mention that at the top like we typically do, but an exciting ball game on Friday night right here in the friendly confines of Antelope Stadium. It was another wet evening, wet, kind of chilly evening at Antelope Stadium, but luckily the lightning and thunder and severe stuff stayed away, and so they played through it. And when the dust settled, it was the Abernathy Antelopes getting an exciting 20-16 win over the Sunray Bobcats. We're officially calling that the first win of the season and a 1-0 start to the season for the Abernathy Antelopes after that no contest the previous week against Stratford. And Chance, you were playing a Sunray team who had scored 42 points the week before against Hooker, Oklahoma, a team that we thought would come in and offensively maybe be able to put up a lot of points, and you hold them to just 16, which I thought was a huge accomplishment for your defense.
A huge accomplishment, a big statement. You know, you always want to defend home field, especially when it's your first official game. It just kind of gets the juices flowing and gets you excited about the season, Ty, and then also to get the revenge a little bit. You know, it's not the same team that put up 39 and kind of dominated you last year, but it just feels good to know, like, hey, you are coming here. We're going to give you a taste of your own medicine. And it was good. It made you nervous. Mm-hmm. It made you nervous. It wasn't without the thrill. And I think, you know,
those are fun, though.
They are fun. We had a lot of those last year. This team, you know, I hope we get to have some of those fun ones. I take a blowout every once in a while.
Every now and then that works.
But, you know, to have your defense step up so big and have four big stops on defense, but not just on defense, but in the red zone, to say that. And, you know,
could have been a lot different ball game, but you kind of put the clamps down when it mattered and got your defense off the field and kept them out of the end zone.
Yeah, big stops, 4 red zone stops, and then you had the 3 turnovers, 2 fumble recoveries, and the 1 big interception by Jagger Wiley that kind of sparked you right after halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. And so defense kind of set the tone, and your offense does enough. You've got a big performance from your quarterback, Jagger Wiley. Chance, he's just continuing to prove to kind of be the leader of this ball club. You know, Coach Wiley, I think, really challenged his son, Jagger, to be the leader at that quarterback position. I think so far he has answered the bell, 200 yards through the air, a couple of passing touchdowns, and he also ran for a touchdown as well. You mentioned also that interception on the defensive side, and just a guy that brings a lot of emotion, a lot of excitement, a competitive edge to the table that you hope is contagious on the Friday nights, week in and week out.
Yeah, he definitely was. And, you know, when he made a big play on defense early in the game and he got up excited, and like I said, right after halftime, you really need to stop. They started with the ball, and first play, you know, they batted up with the slick ball, and he dives out for it and gets the interception, and he just gets up excited. And then what's he do? Turns right around and he throws a strike to Case Heinrich, who had an amazing game as well, stepping up big in the absence of Duvall and really played a lot on both sides of the ball. You know, he's going to play, Case is, but I think just without having Duvall in there, he probably played a lot more than he was expecting.
And he may have earned more playing time on Friday night. We talked about that as well. He may have earned himself a starting spot. And for the reason of him stepping up when somebody needed to, we named him the MC Master Roofing and Construction Player of the Game following that ball game. We talked about it. Could have been a lot of guys, but Case, 75 yards receiving a TD. But he was all over the place on defense as well.
He was. He probably had 6 or 7 tackles on defense as well, Ty, and just flying to the ball, wherever it was. And, you know, that was one of those things that we talked about early in the game. Was like, hey, somebody has to step up in the absence of, you have 2 injuries that are out for the season likely. You have Duvall that's injured as well, and he did it in a big way in a position group that you really had depth, and then you have 3 guys go down super quick. And so just the fact that he stepped up, it was a big game for him. And then, you know, opposite of him, you had Dre Minfield, who had a very good game as well on the offensive side, so just over 60 yards receiving, and he also had a receiving touchdown as well.
And then back on the defensive side, you had both linebackers in Torres and Walters coming up big. They both racked up double-digit in tackles, and Torres causing a couple of fumbles that we mentioned. So just all the way around, a good performance by the Antelopes on both sides of the ball, especially on the defensive side. And Chance, what are some of the things that you feel like we learned because we didn't learn much in the Stratford game.
No.
So what are some of the things that you saw that really stuck out to you that maybe going forward is worth keeping an eye on?
Well, I learned that we stayed healthy for one game for so far.
Minus some cramps.
Minus some cramping
Yeah.
for sure. But, just the fact that when you have a guy like Wiley, if he continues to grow, and I think back to last year, Ty, those first few games, you could see glimpses of it with his arm and just his decision making, how it just continued to progress as the season went on. And I think you're seeing a much more sharpened young man and player. His decision making is a lot quicker. He's making really, really good decisions, protecting the ball, and as well, like I said, him playing on the defensive side, just showing that, hey, I'm not just here to be the quarterback. And, because you can have guys that are like, hey, I don't want to get hit, I want to play quarterback. No, he's out there playing with passion and playing with some grit. And for him to do that, that talks well as a leader. And so he's someone that the guys can get behind.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you also learned, Chance, and I don't know that we learned this because we knew the key to our success was going to get it to our speedsters, our skill position players with space to kind of make something happen. I thought you did a good job. I thought the game plan was good. You kind of mixed it around, kind of kept the Sunray defense off balance just a little bit, kind of some of that mid-range stuff. You also had some really nice deep balls by Jagger as well. I thought it was just a good called game by your offensive coordinator, Coach Bloskus. But I think you see the importance. If we're going to be successful, if we're going to win games, it's going to start with our skill positions.
Yeah, it's going to start with your skill position. And a guy we didn't even talk about because, he didn't have the big play in his first game back, but Colt Micheletti, he may not have had the big play, the big burst of run, but he still carried the ball 15 or 16 times and had about 80 yards rushing. And most of that came in the second half when you really needed to control the clock.
That keeps the defense honest.
It does. It did keep him honest. And him as well knowing like, hey, I'm going to have to grind out some of these yards. And that can be hard on a young player to say, man, I'm not getting those big pops. I'm not getting those big 10-yard carries. But right there towards the end of the game when he knew we needed a first down, man, did he fight for an 8 or 9 yard run, and he got up and he knew what it meant to the team. And just that excitement from there. And you know what else I learned, Ty? And this was like a small glimpse. There was a point in the game where you needed a conversion. Wiley threw a heck of a pass, and you have one of your guys who you expected to step up, and Coach Bird's son, Caden Bird, and it just hit him in his hands, and he dropped it. And when we talk about leadership and we talk about not just the coaches but your players, after that happened, you go into pump formation and guys are kind of getting a break. You saw Blasquez and Caden and Wiley all standing together talking about it. And it wasn't scolding. It wasn't anything. It was just like, hey, it's okay. We're out here. We're learning. We're growing.
We'll get them next time.
We're going to get them next time. And just the fact that you saw that as a team unit and them kind of picking each other up, that means a lot, and it's going to go a long way as the season progresses.
So a big 20-16 win in your home opener against the Sunray Bobcats. Your fourth and final red zone or goal line stand, if you will, comes with about 2.5 minutes left in that ball game as Sunray was on the move trying to get that go-ahead score late, and you were able to turn them away and secure the 20-16 victory. Just real quick, Chance, a look at how our other district opponents did and how they fared on Friday night. Most of them a pretty good effort, as you saw. Olton beat Dimmitt 33-14, and it's just going to be a long year for Floydada.
Oh man!
In the 106th meeting there in Floyd County, they get beat to Lockney 51-6, and that's typically a game. Even if one of those teams is not very good, it's still a close ball game. But Lockney puts it on the Whirlwinds Friday. New Deal, a nice win for them as they get by Roosevelt 35-14. You've got a better ball club in New Deal that you had a year ago, a healthier ball club. New Home, they may have had the win of the night, just West Texas wide, as they knock off number 10 Ropes. That was a revenge win for them going back to last year as well, 28-14. And then Post, quarterback, no quarterback, it doesn't really matter. They beat Forest Sands 64-6.
Yeah, they pummeled Forest Sands, and we kind of talked about this before that New Home Ropes game. there's some things going on in ropes. We don't know what's going on for sure. There was an article in the AJ. I guess one of their players got denied his transfer. He came from Sundown. We don't know, but that could have caused some rift in their game planning. And
I think they've also are dealing with some injuries to some of their key guys as well. So.
But shout out, hey, you play who you got on the field, and shout out to New Home for getting a big win, but don't get used to it, New Home. Don't get used to it.
I think, and we'll talk about this here in just a little bit briefly, more so as we go down the road in weeks to come, but I think you're going to see a very competitive district when district play rolls. Maybe a side post, Floydada, and then everybody else is right there in the middle. But we'll talk about that as we go along. But let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll preview the Littlefield Wildcats and continue our discussion here on Outside the Box. West Texas Brick and Stone has provided top-notch custom masonry services to West Texas for 35 years. We are locally owned and operated as well as family run. We take pride in our masonry work and are ready to tackle your next project no matter the size. Come see us at 405 North Interstate 27 in Lubbock to get the ball rolling on your next project. At West Texas Brick and Stone, we are happy to support Abernathy's young people and are wishing them the best of luck this season. Abel Funeral Home and Flower Shop have served families in Abernathy and the South Plains for many years. Todd, Jackson, and the team at the funeral home will handle all of your funeral planning needs with sensitivity and compassion, while the fine folks at the flower shop can help you with all of your flower and gift needs. They are family owned and operated and are proud to be members of the Abernathy community. Come see us today near 16th Street and Avenue D, or give us a call today. Go Lopes. And welcome back to Outside the Box. Ty Horsford alongside Chance Rocha here on this Wednesday night. Glad you're with us inside the Outside the Box studio. And we talked to the Sunray win. Now we put Sunray in the rearview mirror.
That's it.
And you move on to the next one as you've got a pretty formidable foe, maybe even more so than Sunray, on Friday night as you get a Littlefield team that's had a pretty successful start to the season. And Chance, Littlefield has to feel a little bit snake bit by playing the Abernathy Antelopes. I looked this up today. Abernathy owns the recent series. As Abernathy, they've played the last 7 seasons in a row, and Abernathy has won all 7 of those matchups. In fact, you've got to go back to the 2009-2010 season, the last time Littlefield beat you. And so you've got quite the winning streak going against these Wildcats. And they're probably thinking over there at some point, something's got to give, and we've got to beat Abernathy. But we've played some pretty good Littlefield teams in that stretch as well.
We've kind of put bumps in the road for them and sent them on a losing streak too.
Yeah, absolutely. Wildcats 2-0 on the season, 49-47 in their season opener. They beat the Golden Tornadoes of La Mesa, and then a pretty impressive 34-14 win over Denver City this last Friday night. Abernathy obviously 1-0 following that win over Sunray in the no contest the week before. And Chance, you've got a Littlefield team, and I was reading, there was an article in the AJ about this that I was reading today. They're really dealing with some adversity to start the season. We talk about Abernathy has dealt with injuries. Littlefield has dealt with some early season injuries as well. In their season opener to La Mesa, they lose not only their leading wide receiver, but also their starting quarterback. And it sounds like both of those guys are going to be out for at least a few weeks. Maybe they're hoping to get them back closer to district play. And so like Abernathy, they're kind of relying on some young guys, maybe some newcomers to step up and make plays for them. And they've got a sophomore quarterback in Sammy Sines, and he answered the bell against Denver City on Friday, throwing for 258 yards against Denver City, 2 touchdowns, and he also rushed for 57.
Yeah, and when you have, like you talked about the injury side of things, everybody can deal with that at some point, but at the end of the day, like, he showed that he's capable, sophomore or not, to go up there and put up 258 and 2 touchdowns. Even if Denver City isn't a solid, very, very strong team, those are some numbers to put up, especially for somebody who's young. I mean, that's similar to a Jagger Wiley coming into it early last year and some of the, things that you saw early on from him. And so I think just being able to see that and then, to kind of combat that, they're probably going to lean heavily on the run game. Obviously, they did throw for 258, but they had a few running back by committee, and they're going to lean on their offensive line as well. And so curious to see, Ty, what they're going to do. If their quarterback's going to be back, I don't think that he will. Do you think he's done for the season?
I don't know if he's done for the season. Some quotes from their head coach, Coach Huseman, in that article, they were kind of hoping to maybe have some of those guys back mid-season, but I think it'll be sophomore Sammy Signs leading the Wildcats this year. They did have a wide receiver in Jaden Barrio. He stepped up. He is not a newcomer. If there's any leadership at those skill positions, it's probably Barrio. I remember him from a year ago in that receiving core, but he had a big ball game, 157 receiving yards against Denver City Chance. But I think if Littlefield has an advantage on paper over you, kind of like with Stratford, it's up front.
Yeah,
they've got a veteran offensive and defensive line. They just physically are quite a bit bigger than you are up front, and that's going to be a challenge for the Antelopes.
Yeah, I agree, Ty. I think it's one of those things that, you're going into a hostile environment, number one, in Littlefield. And I say hostile just because, like you said, we've had their number. We've beat them every year going back to 2018 that you've played. But the crazy stat about that, Ty, is you've played each other 30 times. Abernathy's only won 10 of those. 8 of those have been in the last. So you have to think about how they've really dominated the series essentially prior to the most recent time. You haven't had a lot of luck with them. So obviously history can kind of flip back and forth, and it kind of depends on the players that you have and who's lining up. But they're a team. And they're an organization, they're like a community in Littlefield that they're used to winning. But I think that we haven't been there in a while because how it worked out.
They've come here 2 years in a row.
Correct. Yep. So we went there. We played them in district that final year, and then we played them in a non-district at home. And now, so we haven't gone to Littlefield in a while. And so, like I said,
it's a tough place to play.
Yeah, it is. They have a cool little stadium, but I think that our boys will be up for the challenge for sure, but it's definitely going to be, like you said, it's going to be a different team. We're going to have to defend the pass again, as always.
I think the different chance, and as you talk about questions that might need to be answered or that we're asking going into the game, I think that's where it started. You could kind of settle in defensively and prepare for a almost one-dimensional offense in Sunray.
Yeah.
They were going to throw. You were able to get a little pressure on their quarterback. However, that wasn't the game plan. No. You rushed 3. You dropped everybody else because you did not want to get beat in the secondary. And for the most part, that defensive game plan worked.
Yep.
You're going to have to defend similarly, I think, in the secondary. However, Chance, more so than Sunray, Littlefield can beat you on the ground. And so you're not going to be able to just sit back and wait for them to throw.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to sit back and wait for it, number one. And number two, they have multiple guys that can run the ball. So they're going to be a little bit fresher when they do hand that ball off. And I think, too, like you said, just drawing up a scheme that's going to work. And you're going to have to be consistent. You guys from your quote-unquote veteran guys, your Ryan Hillis's and Jake Harkeys up front, they're going to kind of have to set the tone. And they're going to have Minfield and Duval on the backside if Duval is back. We don't have word on that if he's going to play this week or not. That's one of those injuries, like you said, you want to wait till he's 100%. There's no need to rush him, get him back because you want him for district play, obviously. But you saw a guy in Case who could step up and handle that job. But at the same time, you're going to have leadership to make sure that hey, if they're chunking the ball around, we have to stay consistent and not let anybody behind us, but also knowing that, like, hey, we're going to have some grit and get up on the line of scrimmage if they start to run the ball as well.
Well, and you talk about that. You may need Heinrich and Duval both. I think there's a place for both of them in this offense. I think Case did nothing but earn more playing time on Friday night against Sunray. But that's just one more weapon you can put in your arsenal. You're just going to have some consistency from those skill positions. That's where it's going to start for the Antelopes.
And I think, Ty, what it does benefit you, and it probably from a coaching perspective, you can say, hey, if you're playing this series on offense, then we can put Case in on defense, and then we'll flip. You know what I mean? To where you're not having to have guys who are gassed, having to play both ways the entire game. And so using that little bit of depth at your skill position to your advantage for sure. But we talk about it. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. We're going to talk about it all year, Ty. The lack of size up front.
It's going to be a story every week.
It's going to be a story depending on how your opponent draws up the plan. If they say, hey, we're going to line them up, we're going to load the box, and we're just going to make you defend it. And they can. But I think and we saw it at Stratford a lot. If we can get guys using their speed off the edge, you may not be as big up front, but if you can contain and just congest up the middle and not let them get to the outside, you can definitely stop the run game.
Don't give up the big play. Yeah. Don't give up the home run or pass. Talk about keys, Chance, and we talked about it a little bit briefly a minute ago. Colt Micheletti, I think he's going to be a key to keeping defenses honest, like we mentioned. He had a very quiet 80 yards, as we said, against Sunray, but he carried the ball 17 times. Yeah. I mean, he was definitely a threat, and I guarantee you, Chance, there is going to be a game in 2025 where you ride the shoulders of Micheletti, and he just kind of powers you to a win.
Well, 100%, and maybe this week, and maybe next week, but at the end of the day, I think he knows that, and I think that the grit that, like I said, we saw him run with it. It wasn't the Colt that we saw last year in a few games where you're getting your big chunk 30 or 40 yards, but he ran with the emotion that you're going to need him to run with if you're going to have to line up and run between the numbers. And like you said, that's just going to open up things for Wiley and the rest of the receiving core too. And so that's one thing too for sure. And then, like you said, keep your receivers in front of you. We did a good job against Sunray. You may deal with a little bit more size on the outside from Littlefield receivers, but I think we did a good job. And then I think also too, Ty, just being able to, with it being a young quarterback, if you're able to get pressure on him, that can frazzle him a lot, for sure.
For sure, absolutely. When you talk about prognosticators picking this one, Chance, expect it to be another close one
for sure.
In Littlefield this Friday night. The AJ hasn't released theirs yet. Dave Campbell's Texas football, and I don't think this is a bad pick with it being at Littlefield.
Correct.
The Wildcats a 3-point favorite on their home turf against the Abernathy Antelopes. Chance, but then as you and I like to take our stab at it, and I've kind of been on a roll here picking against the Antelopes.
Hey,
and
don't do that, Ty.
I almost did it again today because, hey, maybe I'm finding a key here, something that's going to work.
A little
reverse psychology. But I do think this will be a good ball game. I think it will be close. With all of the things we've talked about, I think you take advantage of having an experienced quarterback in Jagger Wiley. I think that shows through maybe a little bit compared to some inexperience at that position for Littlefield, dealing with some injuries. I am interested to see kind of who you get back, see if you get Duvall back in there, what Heinrich's use looks like. But I think this is one that could come down to the last couple of minutes like we did against Sunray. And
like we did all last year.
I'm going to say 21-20. The good guys are going to pull it out on the road and get that 8th straight win against the Littlefield Wildcats.
There you go, Ty. I'm kind of in the same camp as you. I think that if we control things, control the pace of the game, that's really where you won against Sunray. Did you throw the ball quite a bit? Yeah, you did, but a lot of those were short, high completion percentage passes, and so you kept the clock running. And in that second half, like I said, you had a big dose of Micheletti, and so you kept the ball and kept that clock running. And I think if you could do that against Littlefield and then put some pressure on that quarterback, I think if the Lopes can get to 27, 28 points, I think that they'll pull it out. And I have it 27-21 Abernathy beating Littlefield this week.
If there's something that bothers me and concerns me about Littlefield, it'll be their size and how Abernathy handles their size. And so we will see how that plays out on Friday night as we take a trip to Wildcat Stadium there in Littlefield, Texas.
And I'll say this, Ty. Last year, you started the season 0-2. You end up second in district. Could have been first without a couple plays. These games, do they matter? Do you want to stack wins? Do you want to stack wins every week? You do. But also, your goal in the preseason is to learn about your team. Learn what makes them tick and learn what's going to make you successful. And I think that whether you come out win or loss, you just don't want to go in and lay an egg. You want to go in and compete every day. Yep.
You want to compete. As we take a look around the district, Chance, and we'll roll through these pretty quickly. We'll probably spend more time on these matchups whenever we get into district play. But just because you and I like to pick games and talk about the ins and outs, we'll tell you how we think they'll come out. Chance, Floydada is on the road. They are going to be at Smyre. Dave Campbell's Texas Football has Smyre by 14. Chance, no offense, Smyre's not very good, but I think they roll. I think they put it on the Floydada Whirlwinds.
I believe in you, Floydada. I think you're going to get a W. You deserve one. It's been 2 rough weeks. I go out there and get the W.
This may be, and again,
if they get the W, it could be their only win of the season.
This may be their chance to get a win, and so take a look at that one. You've got Olton and Texaco, one of those kind of border matchups, if you will.
And Ty, I don't know if Dave Campbell's could not pick this one or not because it was an out-of-state team.
Right.
I think that's why they didn't have a pick in there. But I think Olton's going to get them. They'll get back-to-back wins. I think this Olton team is small, just from what I've seen. But I think playing a team against New Mexico, I think they're going to come up with a W.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think it's probably – I don't know a lot about Texaco. I looked them up today, and they're 0-2 on the season. They've lost a couple close ones.
Let's make it 0-3.
So I'll go with the Mustangs in a close one over Texaco. And then maybe the most – intriguing matchup, possibly. The next one is as well, outside of obviously the game we care about.
Lopes for life.
New home on the road at Muleshoe. You have a new home team that got destroyed week 1. Yep. I almost think you can throw that out the door. They were playing a really good Cooper Liberty ball club. They rebound by beating a top 10 team in ropes, dissension or not, in ropes, a pretty sound win. 28-14, and then now they're going to play a Muleshoe team
who's 1-1
that we really don't know anything about because they've looked good and they've looked bad.
Yep.
And so,
but it's at Muleshoe.
Could be an interesting matchup. New home by 6 is what Dave Campbell's says. Chance, what say you?
I think Muleshoe's going to kind of get an upset. I just think that. I'm just going to give it to Mules this round. I think that New Home's going to have some struggles. I know they're dealing with a lot of new things, and they may ride the wave of getting a victory last week, but I think that was more emotional. I think Muleshoe's going to pull it off and beat New Home.
I'll go with the Leopards. I think New Home wins it by a touchdown.
You would.
On the road. This is one, I think me and you might disagree on this a little bit, and we'll see how it plays out. I think New Home potentially is a better football team than what they were last year. We'll see. I could be way wrong in that.
I know they're going to look different.
They are going to look different. They're not going to cook.
Yeah, they only got one cook. There's no 2 cooks in the kitchen this year.
Oh, man. And then, Chance, we've got another intriguing game.
It's the game of the week.
Slayton.
AJ is the game of the week.
Slayton should not be good. And that is no offense to anybody from Slayton. But Slayton is good.
Yeah.
They've got lots of athletes.
Average 50 points a game.
They were good last year. They got all of that back. New Deal's got a tough task in front of them, and Dave Campbell's they ain't sleeping on the Slayton Tigers as they've got Slayton picked by 40 over the New Deal Lions.
And I thought that was I went back and looked, and I thought, is that really? But when you're averaging over 50 points a game, it makes sense. And you're only allowing, I think the most they've allowed was 12 or something like that in the first.
Well, and you've got again a New Deal team that you think is better, but they had a no contest against Farwell, so you really don't learn much from less than a half of a game played in week 1. They do get a win this last week.
Just dominant, but they won.
And so
against the Roosevelt team that really not much is expected from. So
right.
I think that two of those factors go into play, but I think Slayton, they win big over New Deal. I don't want to say, but go Tigers. Go Tigers.
The Tigers and the Lions.
I know a couple of coaches over there, one of the girls coaches, and obviously we know Coach Barton, but I think that kudos to them for turning it around. You always want to see every program in West Texas be successful.
Most of them.
Unless it's New Homer, Shallowater, Idlew, or anybody that we play. We don't want to see them be successful. But you don't want to see somebody just go over. You know what I mean? And it's good to see them bounce back. And, whether it's a blowout or not, I hope it's a good game against New Deal. And, go beat up those lines a little bit. Get them beat up so when we play them against district play.
Yep. I'm with you, Chance. I think Slayton may be the real deal. And I think they're going to make a deep playoff run this year. So I've got the Slayton Tigers also big over the New Deal Lions. And then last but not least, Post taking on Seagraves. I think this is a matchup, Chance, where, and this is a situation, Post to this point has played a pretty weak schedule.
Yeah.
They've rolled. They've won big. Word on the street is they're without their starting quarterback now, but they're also a run-heavy ball club.
Yeah.
And they just try and beat you up front. And so if that's the case, you might can withstand a quarterback injury. And I think, again, Post just overmatching Seagraves. 21-point favorite by Dave Campbell's. I think it's that and then some.
Yeah.
And I think Post rolls.
Yeah, I think they stay undefeated. I mean, they're the number 7 team in the state. We talked about last year. They kind of surprised some people being as good as they were last year. Dave Campbell's expects them to be even better this year. I'm just saying they may not even be the best antelopes in the district. Just saying. But, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And so whenever we go to Post in the season, I guess we'll see what they're all about. But until then,
and sit outside of their press box.
We'll literally be outside the box.
Literally. So that's a look around the district and what to expect on Friday night. And Chance, that kind of wraps up our program. We're working on some fun things for next week.
Homecoming.
It'll be homecoming. Don't want to just completely promise it, but possibly a show on location. TBD, to be determined.
'Tis the plan.
And working on some interview, an interview or two for you as well for next week. But it'll be a big week around Abernathy. Yeah. We'll talk all things homecoming, leading up to that homecoming matchup. And aren't you supposed to schedule teams you can for sure beat on homecoming? Not the case.
Yeah.
The Farwell Steers, know what that game was last year.
It was.
And a 42-41 Abernathy win a year ago. So we'll have a lot to talk about on next week's show.
Yeah, let's talk about look back at Littlefield, look around ASD, and probably recognize all the homecoming court and all the fun things, and talk about all the festivities happening.
Maybe I'll tell you about how my senior year I was the unofficial homecoming king, Chance. We'll tell you how that played out. But and with that, Chance, that brings us to the end of Outside the Box, episode 4. Again, we hope you had some fun with us tonight. Yep. We talk sports in light of everything going on around the world. Maybe it kind of is a breath of fresh air into your living room on this Friday night. Good night.
God bless.
And go Lopes.